what was your worst MMA and non-MMA related injuries?
God, my worst MMA injury was probably my shoulder. My worst non-related MMA injury was when I was doing power cleans and I ripped my testicle in half and ended up losing my left nut.
What? What is happening, everyone? Chattin Pony with Paddy The Baddy, another episode. And today I've got a living legend himself, Forrest Griffin, former UFC light heavyweight champion, Ultimate Fighter 1 winner, UFC Hall of Famer. What, have I missed anything out, Forrest?
No, man, that sounds great. What's happening, man? How you doing?
I'm great, thanks for asking. I hope you're well. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's evening over there, so good evening to you. It's morning for us over here.
Yeah, it's 8 a.m. for you. It's just past 4 p.m. for us. I'm actually going to watch Liverpool tonight. My football team are playing, but hopefully we can win. Yeah, hopefully we can win. But I always like to go back to the start with my guest and ask them how they got into what they're doing. And obviously, when you first started MMA, it was completely different to what it is at now. So how did you get into the sport?
Yeah, that's a great question. I literally just kind of saw it on TV and I thought, that looks fun. I'll bet I could do that. And so I found some guys that were doing that and I went and I got my ass kicked. And I've been kind of I never wrestled and I just joined the club wrestling team in college. And we just started Roman Greco wrestling. And then I did a tough man contest, with the big gloves where you just punch each other and get exhausted. Because I was like, I know how to fight. I'm pretty good at fighting. I got in a lot of fights playing basketball growing up. And turned out I did not know how to fight against people that did know how to fight. So I was like, I had to learn this shit.
So you was fighting from a young age, or was you winning fights though before you got into MMA? Was you winning fights on the street?
You know what? Yeah, street. I was. You know what? I was better than 500. I wasn't great, but here's the thing I had. I would lose fights. I remember I got in a fight when I was maybe 16 with a grown man playing basketball, out on the street court. And I mean, he smashed me up pretty good. He was like a bricklayer, and he hit like a man that moves bricks all day. And he was 30. I'm 16 or something, And, I kept fouling him, and he just took it bang, bang. But after that, my eye kind of swelled up, but we just went and kept playing. And I didn't even, I still stayed guarding him, and I still kept playing hard defense. It's I didn't even change anything. He beat me up to teach me a lesson. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to learn the lesson. And so I just figured out, early on that, I could... I just didn't care as much as other people did. Other people get, nervous or mad or hurt, and I'll just be like, it's whatever. I didn't even... This is before YouTube and shit. I didn't know you could get knocked out and really hurt fighting. So I was, dumb. I was too naive to know any better.
Yeah, you fought at 205, though, so you must have been, a big lad at 16. People would have thought you was about 20-something.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was 14, freshman year, for American football, I was 6'1", 185. And I was bigger than I am now by 10th or 11th grade. Yeah. So I was full grown by 11th grade.
See, I feel like I've only just got fully grown about 2 years ago. I was a late bloomer. I was the opposite.
Well, that's a better way to be, though, for your athletic career as far as longevity. And the way you're doing it's a better way to be. You're coming into yourself physically later in your life. Yeah, it's a better way to do it.
Yeah, nice. But obviously, I have to speak to you about The Ultimate Fighter, the first ever winner. And that was, the show what propelled the UFC to bigger heights. What was it like being in that first season?
What I keep telling people. I keep telling everybody to listen. It was the show. It was The Ultimate Fighter. It was the Trojan Horseman. Reality television saved the UFC. I was there, man. It was crazy.
Well, that house must have been...
No.
That house must have been funny, though, some days. Because it was the first season, the amount of talent what was on there. As you know yourself, Stephan Bonner, then Diego Sanchez, Josh Koscheck, Chris Lee, and Kenny Florian. There was some names on that season. Yeah,
because they had a lot of talent to pick from, but nobody really knew what they were doing. It wasn't 100% defined. And so the craziest thing I remember that always stuck out is the producers are talking, and we can kind of hear them as we're practicing, and they're talking about this show might never see the light of day. And I didn't 100% know what they meant, but I was like, wait, what? We're shooting this for nothing? And like, the UFC was actually paid 10 million bucks to buy all the airtime. Like they didn't have any sponsors, anything. They just bought the airtime. It was that kind of like their last stab at it. So you can actually, if you have enough money, you can buy airtime and put whatever you want on TV. And that's what the UFC did.
It's a good job. Most people don't know that, though, to be honest. They could put anything on the television, couldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, if you got enough money, you can do a lot of things. I think most people know that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, obviously, I was just always watch little clips back from the Ultimate Fighters, and like some of the stuff what happened in the house, it always makes me laugh. But in that first season, lad, when Chris Lieben went wild, what was it like being in the house when that happened?
Oh, it was great. So he was looking for Koscheck, and then he kicks the door open, and like literally, like I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor because that's my thing apparently, and like pieces of the door like went in my bed, and then I was like, oh my god, I was like really freaked out, and then you can hear me say it on TV. I was like, dude, none of these doors have locks because they took all the locks off the doors to make it a better show or whatever. So you couldn't even lock. The bathrooms might have had locks, but none of the other doors had locks on them. So I was like, dude, you could have just opened the door.
And he smashed the front door as well, didn't he? He punched his way through the door.
Yeah, he punched through the glass. Yep, damaged his hand. It was all messed up. Yeah, he shouldn't have been. Like today, they wouldn't have let him fight.
Yeah,
with a busted hand like that.
It's completely different now, though, as you know. But obviously, the finale for both of them, Diego Sanchez just mauled Kenny Florian, didn't he? And then obviously it was you and Stefan, and that fight is in the actual UFC Hall of Fame, isn't it? It's one of the greatest fights of all time.
Yep, yeah, that's what I keep telling people.
Tell them all now, Forrest. Let them all know now.
Well, here's the deal, man. We were at the right place at the right time, and people were tuning in, and like more people kept like tuning in, and we were lucky it went 3 rounds, because like kind of the momentum built and more people were following it. And the coolest story is, I don't know how many people know this, but they actually signed the deal to do the next season of The Ultimate Fighter in the parking lot, like where the production trucks are. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
The next season right then.
That shows it was an instant success. They knew straight away we need another season of this because it'll get higher ratings. Oh, we are. Who's this?
Oh, this is Bronson.
Yes, Bronson. What's happening?
You just needed to know.
Yeah, he's a belter. I've got a dog. My dog's. I can't really just pick my dog up like that anymore. He's too heavy. He's about 45 kilo.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Jeez. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, he's a beast. Like when he jumps on you, you know about it. So obviously from that win on The Ultimate Fighter, how did that change your life? Did it change it immediately, or was it a couple of years down the line?
It did. No, it changed it immediately. Like you were on TV, it was crazy. All of a sudden, like people knew you. It was pretty crazy because we were on the commercial for the next season, like parts of that fight, and it was. The one thing I remember is being like, oh, okay. I've got myself into it now. I don't have any excuses. Like I don't have to have a job. Like I'm a professional fighter now. Like before I'd always had a job or been in school. Like I'd never just been able to devote myself to fighting. But after that show, I knew. I was like, all right, I have, this is what I do now. I don't have to work a door to bar. I don't have to do this or that, And so like I tell everybody, man, quit your job, drop out of school, and follow your dream. It could work out for you. Worked out for me.
That's it. Look, I'm lucky enough to say that I never had a job. Know what I mean? I went to, not college, I went to sixth form, we call it, where you get your A levels to then go to university, to college. But I dropped out of that to pursue MMA, and as they say, the rest is history. I've never had a job as like
That's so good, yeah.
Yeah, I've never had a job as like a bricklayer or anything. I've always just went to gym every morning and trained my ass off.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome, but something like my generation does have that's good for us is we really we had to have those shitty jobs, like I roofed houses, I framed houses, I was a cop, I did like air conditioning, I did like basically whatever I could get that I could do around training, you know? So like the jobs you can do are kind of limited, right? If you're going to spend like 4 hours. And then we used to train in the evening then because that's the only time we could get enough bodies together.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I'm lucky the sport now, it's evolved so much where I was in the gym this morning and there was about 18 people on the mat sparring for MMA rounds.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. And then it's cool. You get to do it, you know, that your day revolves around training now, right?
Yeah.
So whereas, you know, a lot of us in the older days, our day would kind of revolve around like our job or our life, and then we would fit training in. So it's important, you know, that's the growth of the sport. That's the professionalization of MMA, you know. It's a viable way to make a living and pursue a career.
Yeah, well, as you say, a career, you had a long and successful UFC career. Is there any of your fights that stand out as like more memorable, or ones that you thought you had a great performance?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the turning point was the Shogun fight, the one I won, not the one I lost, obviously. So that was kind of, you know, that was the one that got me the shot at the belt, and it got me, you know, I got to be a coach on The Ultimate Fighter, which I didn't know what the hell I was doing in the beginning, but I ended up loving it. And a lot of the guys I coached like stayed out in Vegas and kept working with my team, you know. I knew I wasn't the best coach, but I've always been good at structuring a practice and putting together a team, right? So we really, like, we had all the advantages every time I coached The Ultimate Fighter because it was in Vegas. And I just like would come down the street and I would bring my coaches in and be like, this is what we do, you know? So it was super easy.
Yeah, what was that like? Obviously, because
the other guy's Quentin. He's trying to fly his coaches back and forth from California, and it's just like a mess.
Yeah, obviously you was on the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, and then you coached. It was season 7. You coached season 7. Yeah, season 7. So, what was did you notice a big difference in like how the show would come on in them couple of years?
So, season 7, there was a surprise. And they didn't tell him until the first day. It was the first season you fought to get in the house. And that was like a game changer. That was 32 dudes showed up and everybody knew something was rotten in Denmark. People were like, uh-oh, what's going on here? And then, you know, and then you got to fight to get in the house. And it was crazy. And there's actually a lot of pretty good fighters that made it to the UFC later, but they lost in that initial fight in. And I've always loved that fighting kind of mentality, you know, like fight to get on the show and then fight your way through it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. I think they probably used that because there was a few people in the first few seasons, wasn't there, that didn't really look like fighters. I can remember the one in the first season where Chris Lieben had a piss on his bed. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't a fighter. You know what I mean? And like, if they would have had that fight,
it was like,
yeah. What was his name? Wayne Weems.
Yeah. Like, what's that?
Was his name Wayne Weems? Was that his name?
No.
He must have been on a different season.
I forgot.
Yeah, I forgot. But
yeah.
Anyway, he got so a little slightly bullied.
I haven't watched the actual show. Like, I don't know, ever. I just watch the training to see if there's anything I can learn from the way they train and the fights. I don't watch any of the stuff in the house. I just fast forward through it. So I have no idea what's happened other than the training and the fights. I don't care.
Have you never watched your season back?
Yeah, I think I did one. No, I watched it when it was on live because it was airing like later.
Yeah.
So I watched it. Yeah, I watched it then.
Yeah, nice. I think it'd be funny watching yourself back every week in a house, like, especially with another gang of barn pots, as we'd say. Because back then, that season 1, it was a gang of psychopaths.
Yeah, oh yeah. And then I was currently living with a gang of psychopaths. We had a 3-bedroom apartment that 5 dudes lived in, and I lived on a mattress like in the corner of the living room with like a tent bed, you know, because we were all broke fighters. We were trying to be fighters, so we were all just, you know, living in this crummy Athens, Georgia apartment. But you know, you're looking back like that was the best.
Yeah, back then I always say, like, back before me and long before my time, back then everyone was a real fighter. No one got in it for Instagram and social media purposes and then even money. People got into it because they love fighting and they wanted to be the best.
people still got into it because they thought it would make them look cool or something. I mean, people still got into it for the wrong reasons. But look, man, I got $200 to fight Dan Severn in 2001. So, and the first 4 fights I did, only the winner got paid, which I kind of liked. There was nothing. Like if you won, you got paid. If you didn't, you got nothing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, hopefully you won all 4 of them fights.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
There you go. That's all that matters. You won all them fights. So how old was you then when you fought Dan Severn in 2001?
21,
and
22.
Surely he was
21.
in his mid-30s.
Oh, he was in his early 40s. And he was a stud though, man. Like you just go around and fight the town badass for $5,000 everywhere,
Yeah.
He's got like 100 fights, man.
Yeah, he has.
He's still like doing pretty good. I just talked to him not too long ago. He's
yeah, he's a legend.
Miles on his body, man. He's actually doing amazing. Yeah.
Absolute legend though. But as you spoke on before, beating Shogun Hua, I think that was the fight where the first ever fight I saw of yours. Obviously after the Ultimate Fighter, because everyone's seen that Ultimate Fighter finale, but I think that was the first fight I saw of yours, and it actually takes me back to the game, because on the game that was the demo.
Yes.
That was the demo, you were Shogun, and the posters there behind you.
Yep, that's it. And that's the cut. It's like the cut made it to the thing, and they were like, should we put this blood on the video game thing? Will people buy it? That was a long time ago, right? Now it's like you got zombie games galore.
Yeah.
They were like, do we market the UFC with blood or no blood? And it was funny. I was like, they went blood. I think it made the right choice.
Yeah, they did. Like the UFC games are always interesting. You love a little scrap on them, but nowadays people are just too good on it. Like, they can't compete.
No, man, it's ridiculous. I was in a tournament, and I just held a dummy remote, and I had somebody playing the actual game with the real remote, like behind me.
That's
and even
brilliant.
this guy didn't win, and I still got beat. Yes, that's where you do it.
That's a brilliant idea. I'm going to use that one in future.
Yeah, don't tell anybody that, but definitely do it. Just get somebody somewhere stationed that's really good with the real remote, and then you just if you have a general idea of where the buttons are, you can do it.
Yeah, it's so hard, that UFC game now. I'm glad I'm good at it in real life, because I'm not good on it on the game. Definitely not.
Yeah, no, I think one is probably more important than the other.
Yeah.
Although I have noticed people that are really good at video games tend to be good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. My coach is really good on video games, to be honest. He loves Halo.
There you go. It's just like a weird sort of mind they can get into. I think I'm more like you. I just like to go. Let's just go.
Yeah.
What are
same.
you doing? I don't know. Let's spar. What are you going to do? I don't know. Let's wrestle spar. What do you do? Let's punch spar. I don't know. Let's just do it. Let's go.
Nothing better than punching each other in the face. There's nothing better.
I mean, if you never tried it, it's actually pretty fun.
It is.
And to be quite honest, that's kind of one of the things I miss the most, is just getting to spar a little bit. I don't do it at all anymore. It's funny. I just shut it down over COVID, and then I just never went back to it. I can't do it anymore. So I can't. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'll be honest, that's my favourite part of training, sparring. So obviously that was your favourite part of training also.
It should be though, because that makes sense, because you like fighting, right? So it's like that's the closest you get to a fight, and that's the closest you get to that feeling. We used to do a thing where we were we'd spar with pro boxers in Atlanta, right? So it'd be like a 2-hour drive, and you're driving to fight these guys at their gym, and you're nervous, which was always one of the things, for whatever reason, I always kind of liked that, I would get to the gym and be like, oh man, I gotta shit myself real quick. Hold on, I'm there, But then you go into a fight and you're like, I've done this before, and I do this every Saturday, It's not a big deal.
Yeah, you're right there. But obviously the training back then was a lot different than now. So what was the hardest aspect of training back then? Because you're like me, my favourite part's sparring. But the developments in training standards now, as you know, with the Performance Institute and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
training's just
I'm trying to learn
evolved.
more and more about it every day. Yeah. So I was really blessed that I got with Randy Couture kind of early-ish in my career in Vegas. One of the reasons I moved out here is he actually asked me to help him like train like with his camp, you know. And so I was like, oh wow, okay. So I moved out here. He opened a gym, and he was he was kind of ahead of his time. He had a physical therapy. He had a nutrition bar, but it closed down. He couldn't sustain it. He had like an S&C area. He had a real good strength coach, and so he was kind of trying to do everything. And he'd have us doing these plyos, and then he was like in his 40s by that time, so he would like go really hard, and then he would pull back. He kind of knew when to pull back for his own body, and then I think that some of us didn't learn that lesson about when to go and when to pull back, because it's kind of hard to know. Sometimes you're just like, am I just being a bitch? Am I just being a wimp today? Like, should I just get on the mat and shut up and start going, or what? So yeah.
I know what you mean there, though. Sometimes my muscles are sore and I'm thinking, I've got to get on the mat today. And then literally you have a little warm up and you start doing a little roll and you think, I feel good now.
So that is the key. That's what I would always do. I'd always be like, all right, you're going to do the warm up and a few drills, and you take it from there. If you still don't feel like going, shut it down. Maybe do some running, do whatever. Maybe a light S&C workout. But yeah, make it through the drills, make it through the warm up, and then reevaluate and say, all right, yeah, I'll get one in today. Because if you put it off, then you got to change your whole weekly schedule, and that's just a pain in the ass.
That's me out of camp sometimes. I don't have to do this session, and the next day I'll do 3 sessions to make up for that, and then I'm sure the next day I'm like, why did I do that?
And then Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like that, right?
Yeah, fortunately. But we touched on it before. You was the 205-pound world champion, and you beat Rampage Jackson for
I don't remember. But
yeah, you was the UFC light heavyweight champion, lad. And at the time, that was the Shark Tank division of the UFC. You know what I mean? That had all the main fighters in, but all the superstars anyway. The way I personally think lightweight is in the UFC now. Back then, it was light heavyweight. That was what all the best fighters were at. And
it goes through cycles for sure. And then, lightweight, you definitely, you think about the guys and gals, it's like from Oliveira down. Yeah, that's probably the deepest weight class is 155. And that's the most, I think that's the largest number of fighters in the UFC. And if you think about just the size of the average human male, an in-shape average human male falls into that 165, 170 pound weight, hence 155 pound weight class. So that's why, if you think about the bell curve of the size of people, there's going to be less heavyweights, there's going to be less 125ers, but kind of the peak is 155 and 170, and those are the 2 largest weight classes in the UFC. And that's why they're the most competitive, just the most athletes trying to do it.
yeah, I think personally in the UK, Americans are slightly bigger. I think in the UK, most of our fighters are like 135ers, 145ers, stuff like that. Like, you only get the odd fighter what's above 170 from the UK.
In our food. We got the real good chemicals in our food over here.
Help you grow strong.
I do tend to make us, I guess. They make you big and strong, or they give you cancer, but either way, it's worth it.
Yeah, I always think Americans are so much bigger. I have a sparring partner come over, Chasing, and he fights at welterweight, and he's just built different. He's been wrestling since he was like 6, and he's just like that.
Yeah, well, those people that make it through wrestling like that, they are different. Yeah, and I've even noticed they'll tend to hold that for a while, even after they quit training, just because they grew up doing it, I guess.
Yeah, when you say wrestling to someone in the UK, they think of WWE. They don't know what Greco-Roman is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. That's kind of how Georgia was too. Like, I didn't have a high school wrestling team, but I am now on the Wall of Fame for my high school wrestling team.
Yes,
but we didn't have a team. We didn't have a team when I was there. And then, I just was like, saw some dudes. Like, I was like, I'll join the club team. It's like $45 a month. I got that.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
first
it
fight,
was like subsidized by the university.
the first fight what I saw, what got me into MMA was Diego Sanchez and Clay Guida. It was
Yeah, that's
like,
an awesome.
yeah, a scrap just like yours and Stephen Bonner. And then I was just like, oh, I need to fight.
At the Palms, I had the good fortune to be there. Right, so the Palms, the old one, there's only about 2,200 seats, and they're right on top of each other. So there was a great energy in there. I mean, it was awesome. That fight went, and I had actually just had shoulder surgery, and Clay Guida comes up after the fight and like shakes me, and I'm like, oh my God, stop.
I've met Clay at one of the UFCs recently. He's a cool dude, and he's another legend in the game, been fighting for years.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a stud. He's just been doing it forever too. He's one of those guys. Like he's made it different stuff.
Yeah, me and Clay need a burping contest. That's what we need. I reckon I'd give him a good go. I do.
Well, I tell you, next time you're in Vegas and you want to hit some all-you-can-eat sushi, I'm your man.
Oh, not sushi, Forrest, not sushi.
No?
No, I'm not a sushi kind of guy.
No.
Oh, yeah, there he is. Yes, Bronson.
This is when you know you've probably gone too far.
Yeah, oh, he's got a belter little play area there, hasn't he?
The wall is his basically.
Yeah, he's nice there. That's a posh little playground for him.
Yeah, he's doing all right for himself.
I had Tito Ortiz on my podcast recently, so obviously I've got to ask you about him as an opponent because you fought him more than once.
Man, Tito's just a good example of you can't be friends with everybody, Some people like personalities just weren't meant to mesh. I'll say this. He's another one. Like, he's a legend. He started, UFC 2001. And, he's still fighting. That's crazy, And I know he's been banged up for years, but he still finds a way to get it done, So all the things you can say about him, like he's committed to the game. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. He's had a long career, as you say. He's had longevity, but yeah, just because you fought him more than once, and I only spoke to him about 2 weeks ago, so I thought I'd ask you about it. But is that like your most memorable feud, or have you had like a bigger one?
No, that's probably it. Yeah, but even if that, you think about it, he's had feuds with me and Chuck Liddell was like a famous feud that I kind of came in on, which was funny. This cat's getting crazy out here.
I know. I can see it. Keep turning him round to see him. Is he all right? What's he doing?
No, he's good. He's just trying to get out.
Does he want some attention? Is that what it is? He's after some attention.
He's like, you're not going to play with me. I'm out.
Yeah.
All right, bud. Sorry.
After retirement, obviously now as your top says, you're repping the Performance Institute. You now have a role in the UFC. So you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So if you think about it, and I know you got a performance coach. We'd love to talk to him. So we kind of the UFC created the Performance Institute really to replicate what every other professional sport has. They have a strength and conditioning coach, a dietitian, a sports psychologist. They have basically everything to support your MMA training, right? So if your MMA training's here, you got to have all those other services, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you need PT, sometimes you need chiropractic, sometimes you need an athletic trainer just to tape your ankle up. You need all these kind of discrete, like different things. And the most important thing, and the thing that the PI does the best, is put them together, right? So how does your S&C work with this? What time should you be doing PT? Should you be doing it before your training, after your training? What should you be eating when? Like for your hard sparring days, should you be eating X, Y? Like what are the fuel sources you're tapping into? And then if you think then you move past that, you say, well, how can you recover? What tools and modalities do you have for recovery so that you can get the most out of your next training session? So the sport of MMA is a little different than every other sport because there's almost three kind of distinct components you have to train, right? So there's grappling standing, so wrestling, more freestyle wrestling, grappling on the ground, also just wrestling, and then striking, so at distance. So if you look at clinch, distance, ground, those are skill sets you have to train a little bit every day. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and you have to kind of spar hard with wrestling, like just your wrestling. And then you have to put them together as well, right? So kind of figuring that out is hard enough. And then to try to figure out, well, when's the best time to do S&C, or what time of day should I work out if I'm fighting at, 10 at night? What's the best way to get my body adjusted? How do I adjust the time zones? How do I adjust the altitude? So all those kind of things that we asked ourselves, that we were trying to figure out. Well, that's what the Performance Institute does. Now, the Performance Institute's more of like a model, right? It's more of like a theoretical framework than a place, right? So we've one in Vegas, obviously, one in Shanghai, and we'll have one in Mexico City, and then hopefully we'll have, several more in the next 5 or so years around. We'll get one in Europe. But the idea is really more the kind of knowledge that's going to be gained from actual scientists and high-level researchers studying the best way to train for MMA. What actually happens to the body when you train grappling, and what happens to the body when you fight, right? And what are the best ways to prepare and recover from that? So, I mean, it's kind of a lot, but the general, what I've been blathering on about is how the hell do you put it all together? You have a lot of different things you have to do. How do you put them together? And that's what we're doing here. And, I think about, we've been open 5.5 years. I'm so much smarter than I was 5.5 years ago. I feel like an idiot. Only now do I realize how stupid I am. Or just not, just how little I know, right? Like there's still more to know. There's still more to understand about human physiology. There's still more to understand about how skill acquisition works, right? Like how long should you be drilling a skill before it's wired in? How much sparring do you need, right? So sparring's super important, right? Because that's your real-time decision making. That is going to bring out your creativity and your like your coupling response. So if you throw a jab, I'm going to throw a look, whatever. If you think about the way you counter, right? You have to drill those things and ingrain them in a high stress, high speed, kind of high stakes scenario to some extent. But how often do you need to do that? Because there's a lot of risks that come with sparring, but the benefits, and then how much should you do it? Like when you spar, how often do you spar? How many rounds? And then how far apart do you space those days out? And then keep asking questions. Do you change that for, like, what point do you change that? 12 weeks out from a fight, out of camp, or right, like in the last 6 to 8 weeks before the fight?
Well, generally, I don't spar that often out of camp, you know what I mean? I love sparring, but I have to get told not to. So we generally spar every Tuesday and Thursday. On a Tuesday, we'll spar with boxing gloves on, and on a Thursday, we'll spar with the 8-ounce gloves with the fingers sticking out, the amateur gloves with head guards on.
Yeah.
And we'll do about 4 or 5 rounds both days. Well, saying that, no, we'll do 3 rounds in the cage on a Thursday and then 4 or 5 rounds on a Tuesday.
Okay, so, that's another thing that I didn't do. I would spar 8 rounds. Why? There's no 8-round fight. So if you're sparring 8 rounds, you're actually diminishing your output, right? I think it's better to spar under 5 and then go a little more like awareness and the ability to defend yourself and react too, right? So I mean that sounds pretty good. I don't know. So on Wednesday, do you kind of take that day a little lighter?
Yeah, we'll do like a technical session on the Wednesday morning, 2-hour technical session, and then I'll do my S&C in the afternoon.
Yeah, how taxing is that S&C?
It's quite taxing, like nothing. As I say, I agree with you there, Forrest. I realise how stupid I am when I sit down and speak to my S&C and coach and nutritionist. When I speak to Paul Reed, I realise like how thick I am. And he just blows me mind with the information, what he feeds me. And like at this moment, I'm on a deload week. And I know obviously when you was coming up, there was no such thing as a deload week. But now the sport's advanced.
I was at Extreme Couture, and I heard a guy say deload week. And it's what I preach. It's what I want people to do. But in the back of my head, I was like, kids today.
Yeah.
Kids today.
I was going to say, he definitely got called a pussy.
It was like a deload week. But no, he didn't. People were just like, oh, okay, all right, well, just do your 2 rounds and then, do some technical drilling, right? So, yeah. No, I mean, that sounds pretty reasonable. And, if you got good S&Cs around you, there's ways to potentiate yourself or not to blow yourself out for that sparring, right? So you can still work some maximal qualities without deteriorating your sparring with your S&C work.
Yeah, when I was a lot younger, I think I'd done a bit of damage to my body because I was cutting extreme amounts of weight when I was like 19, 20, 21 to make featherweight. I was cutting like 17, 16, 17, 18, 19 pound overnight, and it was just draining my body. And in the end, we done a DEXA scan and it just said I should not be fighting at 145, and that was when we made the decision to move up.
Your lean mass was more than, your lean body mass is more, and that's one of the tools we use, really, for the weight class fit, and that's the exact right thing. You're like, oh, I have more than 140, like, if I have no water in me, I still have more than 145 pounds of lean tissue. But what age was your first pro fight?
17.
17, that is awesome. That is awesome. The only thing that I kind of worry about is guys that age cutting weight.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I have a friend who wrestled his whole life, and he's like the smallest guy in his family, and he attributes it to cutting weight. Like, he's like cutting weight when he's like 14. I'm like, man, when I was 14, I was trying to play American football. I was eating like everything I could. I would like eat till I got uncomfortable and had to lay down. Every night I would just try to get bigger,
Well, the way you said you was 185 at, what was it, 16 or 14 or 16?
14.
Yeah, 14. I was, when I first started doing jiu-jitsu at 15, I was like 52 kilo.
So like 111 pounds.
Yeah. Well, that's how big I was when I first started jiu-jitsu. The first couple of tournaments I did were under 55 kilo. Oh, so under 120. Yeah.
Yeah. But, hey, man, that's the other great thing about MMA. It's a weight class sport, Sorry, but you can never be in the NFL. You can never be in the NBA, Probably never be in the majors. But, weight class sport, it kind of makes gives everybody kind of a chance to compete.
Yeah, well, let's see, just before to move on to the segment where I ask questions people have sent me for you, I have to touch on something a teacher said to me when I was younger, where you've just said that. Because when I first started doing MMA, I was still in school. I was like second to last year in school. I was 15, and I got caught in school selling chocolate and drinks. In our schools, you're not allowed to go out. So I was being a little entrepreneur, making some money.
Hustling.
And I said to I got caught. The teacher said, "What are you doing this for, Patrick?" And I said, "Oh, I'm selling to pay for my gym membership, miss." And she went, "Gym? What do you mean?" I was like, "Oh, I'm doing MMA. You'll know what is cage fighting." And she went, "Oh no, stop doing that, Patrick. You're too small for that. Focus on your academic work. You're too small for that. You won't get nowhere with it." I was just like, "You're meant to be my teacher."
That's awesome though. You could have taken that the other way and been like depressed, but instead it motivated you.
Oh yeah, it drove me on. It thought, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Weight classes to the poor woman.
I know, that's what I mean.
There you go. That's why. Yeah, I mean that's your personality, and that's what makes you a good competitor and fighter, right? Like you wanna engage with that and prove those people wrong.
That's it.
For me, I never talked any smack to any of my opponents because I didn't want to motivate them. I just was like, well, I'm just gonna try my best. That guy's so tough, But then when you show up Wednesday and you meet each other for the first time, then I would kind of go hard because it's too late for you to train anyway. So then I would just be like real straight out and be like, yeah, I'm going to try and hurt you real bad. It's going to be fun.
See,
that was always my strategy.
I can't help but smile at my opponents when we do the face-off. I can't help it. You know what I mean? I just smile.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it comes. Yeah, I mean, like
You're gonna fight anyway.
Calm down, bud.
Yeah, you're gonna fight anyway, so you don't need to start pushing each other.
We'll do it for real in a couple of days.
Yeah, you know, you're not gonna start fighting now. I know you're not, because we won't get paid in a few days. So let's just smile, smile and wave. Anyway, I have a little segment at the end, so I'll let people know that you were coming on the podcast, and I've been asked a few questions for you. So I've got a few interesting ones here. Andrew Gosh has asked, "Hey Forrest, what was your worst MMA and non-MMA related injuries?"
Ooh, man. God, my worst MMA injury was probably my shoulder. My worst non-related MMA injury was when I was doing power cleans and I ripped my testicle in half and ended up losing my left nut.
What?
Doing power cleans. Yeah. Yeah.
We need to know, Forrest. Before we move on, we have to know this story.
Yeah, no, I was 14, and like I said, I was big. So they had me working out with the juniors and seniors, and I was like trying to power clean my body weight, like 185 pounds, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I was 14 years old. I didn't know to tell them, like, dude, this is too much weight. This is crazy. So I just started trying to lift it, and I just heard a rip, like somebody ripping off the sleeves of a T-shirt, and then I realized that was my abdominal wall, and my body just kind of closes. And it felt like somebody dumped cold water on my crotch. And I didn't want to tell anybody because it's embarrassing when your testicle's the size of softballs. And you're 14, you don't want to tell anybody, you don't know what to do. And then finally my mom made me go to the doctor because I couldn't like straighten. And they ended up having to cut my off testicle out because it just came unraveled, the seminiferous tuberals, whatever. It was just like a Van Gogh piece of art.
I feel bad for laughing now.
That's my worst. No, I laugh. I think it's funny. And then in high school, I'd like show people.
Oh, that'd be agony.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's brilliant.
A weird party trick, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, yeah, it is an interesting one from Bodie. Can you ask him about the lost Anderson Silva? Apparently, he got knocked out in training leading up to the fight. Would like to hear what the backstory was.
I got knocked out in training leading up to the fight.
That's true, yeah.
It was funny. Oh yeah, I got knocked out bad. And I actually, so I get a lot of shit for that fight, obviously. But here's the deal: I got knocked out, and I was so knocked out. I don't remember any of this, but I let my wife take me to the hospital to do like an MRI and stuff. I don't remember this, but like, why would you do that? And yeah, I had like a gun course that morning at 7 a.m. And I was like, because I was like doing the shooting thing. And then I was like, all right, so I just got to get a couple rounds in with my buddy Bristol Morundi. Bristol, like, he's a 185er, He's never hurt me. And he knocked me the fuck out that day. So I felt like shit, but I'm going with my buddy. It's safe. And I just, he threw the kick and the punch, the same side. Right kick to right punch, and they both landed flush, and I don't remember anything. And so, but yeah, I let my wife take me to the hospital. That was like a waste of $1,000. It's like, what? This is America. We don't just go to the hospital here. I'm fine. I'll be fine tomorrow. So the whole time leading up to the fight, I wasn't sleeping. So this is like, 13, 14 days before. Well, 14 days exactly before the fight. But I couldn't sleep. And then when I started like going hard, like drilling or doing mitts or something, I wouldn't spar anymore, obviously, but drilling or doing mitts or something, I would get nauseous. So, and even in the locker room warming up, I got a little bit nauseous. And then the second he hit me, I don't remember all of it. I just remember my corner yelling kick. Like the first time he knocked me down, I was like, oh yeah, I should kick. There's a dude over me. And then, so I don't really remember any of that. It was kind of like bits and pieces, And then I remember, for some reason, I remember like doing a drug test afterwards, like waiting in line. And it was me, Amir Sadallah had gotten knocked out, and Kenny Florian. And we're all like waiting in line to drug test. And I'm like, are they only piss tested losers today? What's going on here? And apparently I was pretty bad because I actually wandered outside. Like, I just wandered outside the arena onto the streets. And, like, nobody, like, I think my wife ended up having to, like, bring me back in. Nobody knew, like, where I was. Like, where'd he go? I think they thought I was trying to have a drug test, but I was just, like, disoriented.
Yeah.
It's like wandering around in the street.
You could tell though in that fight there was definitely something up, because in other fights you've took much bigger shots than that, like much bigger shots, and you've kept coming forward.
The second he hit me with the first one, you can tell that I was actually fine until he hit me. And then once he hits me with the first one, but this is something I'll tell you too, man. Your chin, if you get hurt in sparring, make sure you got stop then. If you get hurt in sparring, you will lose your chin, man. Everybody does. You see a lot of boxers that get chinny too, but you can do the Andrei Arlovski and fight forever. So I thought he lost his chin in 2006 or 7, and he's still going, But yeah, that is the key. If you do get clipped, man, you can't spar. You can't do it. You got to take 2-3 weeks, a month off, and it seems crazy. Like, I got to fight. How am I never going to spar? Well, I mean, you gotta. That's again, we talk about that risk reward. You can't be getting hurt in sparring like that. Like, it's going to happen every now and again, but if you're lining up for a fight, know the people you're sparring with. 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out, right? Like the people that know what's up.
Yeah, they get trust.
And that's something I did later. Yeah, and that's what I did later in my career. It was usually you just show up and you spar with whoever's on the mats. And I was always the biggest light heavyweight, so I always sparred with heavyweights. I was like, the biggest light heavyweight, what you really are is the smallest heavyweight.
Well, this next one's not a question, but I've got to read it out because it's brilliant and shows what a cool dude you are. From Connor Hughes, a friend of mine tweeted Forrest years ago. He responded by sending him an autograph posters and merch. Forrest is a beauty for sure.
Oh man, yeah,
brilliant.
That's awesome.
Yeah, here's one. What was your biggest learning experience as a pro MMA fighter?
That's a really good question. Good question. I don't know. I mean, I think I've learned so much I can't quantify it, or I've learned nothing. I don't know. Either way, maybe I haven't learned anything. I don't know. That's a good question. Like thus far in your career, and I know you're still at the beginning of it, but what are some of the lessons you've learned? You've done very well for yourself. You've done some things right for sure.
To be honest, I think it's listen to people. Because when I was younger, up until about 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't listen to anyone. It was my way or the highway. You know what I mean? It was like, I'm right. No, you're wrong. Up until about 2 or 3 years ago, I never used to listen to anyone's advice. I'd just say I'm right. You know what I mean? But a couple of years ago when I got a bit depressed, I started listening to other people, and now I don't do much without me loved ones and me gym teammates, me fiance, me good friends. I don't do anything without consulting with them first, and my life's better for it. You know what I mean? Actually listening to other people and not thinking I'm the smartest man on the planet.
That's awesome. You need a core of people that you can depend on to have your best interests at heart. Like just people that'll give you that honest feedback and say this is a good idea or that's a bad idea, or don't listen to that Forrest Griffin guy, he's punchy. You need people like that in your life.
Well, yeah, I'm lucky that I've had people what are there from day one, and I haven't got to worry about people just jumping on the ship now. You know what I mean? I've had people there from day dot.
Oh yeah, and the other thing too is the people that jump off on the ship, they're gonna jump off first chance they get. They're gonna jump off and be like, "Yeah, I told you." It's just the nature of the beast, man. So capitalize on those while you can.
Yeah, I'll do what I can. But Forrest, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'll definitely see you. I think I'm open to fight on the December 10th card, so I'll be in Vegas. Yeah, I'll be getting there a little bit early to acclimatise, so I'll get in the institute and see you nice and early. But is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to or mention your social medias or anything like that?
No, absolutely not.
You all should know where to find him.
But
Legend.
Yeah, but no, I'm too old for that nonsense. But you keep doing your thing, Pat. It was great to talk to you, man. And seriously, best of luck. And if you need anything, man, let us know, man. We're here to help guys like you. So yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And as I say, I really appreciate you coming on. You're a living legend, and I can't wait to see you in person in the Performance Institute. Thank you, Forrest. There we go, people. Another episode in the books. See you next week.